Hello guys, it is me again, it's HorrorFan34, and welcome back to another review. Continuing on my reviews for the Texas Chainsaw Massacre series. This ought to be an interesting one, I'll say that for sure. But now we are on the fourth film of the franchise, and people consider this thing, but, you know, this movie, I'll say it right now, it's going to be a review of this. The Texas Chainsaw Massacre, The Next Generation. Now, this was released in 1994, directed by Kim Henkel, who had a hand in, I believe, writing the first movie, the original film. And basically, this movie, let me hear out on this. Hear me out on this. Is this a good movie? No. This is not a good movie. Is this a really bad movie? Yeah, it's pretty damn bad. But it's like one of the most weirdest guilty pleasures I think I've ever watched. Like, I can pop this in and just enjoy the fact how entertainingly bad it is. It's fun to make fun of it. So in a way, it's entertaining to watch because of how bad it is. Just this movie. I mean, I can go on and on about this movie, but basically with the idea with this, I know that Kim Henkel, basically, in a way, when you watch this film, it's kind of like a semi-remake of the original film. Because in this movie, like, there are certain scenes that are very similar to the original film. Like, for example, when Renée Zellweger is being chased by Leatherface, and, well, do I really say chase? He's just swinging the chainsaw around like an idiot and screaming. But she's like, the chase scene when she's running from Leatherface and he has the chainsaw over his head, it's kind of like a similar shot to the original film. When Renée Zellweger gets to the house and she's running up the staircase, like kind of like how Sally did in the original. She goes upstairs and finds a body stuffed just like the original, things like that. Jumps out of a window and things like that. But the basic idea with this film is that once again, it opens with an opening crawl about the previous movies, but the way they do it is so bad. And even the narrator that they got, who did the narration for the opening crawl, is so bad. Like, the way he talks and everything, like, the original film, he had John Dugan, which was classic. I really like the guy who did the opening crawl to the second film. And I actually really like the guy who did the third film, but I think the first two narrators were the best ones. But even the third guy was better than this guy. The way the guy talks when the opening crawl happens, like, August 18th, 1973. News of a bizarre chainsaw-wielding family were to ignite the world's imagination. And over the next several years, 2 minor incidents occurred. And then nothing happened for 5 years. Silence. Just the way he sounds like he's like taking his time, like he doesn't know how to read it, because it sounds like he's reading off of a script. It's the way he opens it. August 18th, 1973. But that's why I'm saying it's a bad movie, but it's entertaining to watch because of how entertainingly bad it is. And the idea is that it takes place during prom night, and you have these 4 friends. You have Jenny, played by Renée Zellweger, her boyfriend Sean, and you have another couple, Heather and Barry. They end up in the woods. They get run off the road by another car, and they go find some help. They gotta go find help, and of course, Leatherface and the family are out there with the house and things like that. But going into this movie, like I said, it's one of the most weirdest guilty pleasures ever. It's not a good movie. It's a horrible movie. Really bad. But the thing is, though, I can pop this in, and I laugh at this film more than most comedies today. I laugh at this movie more than some comedies today. I think this is like one of the funniest damn movies I think I've ever watched ever. And just, like, some of the scenes in this are just so ridiculous. Like, when the four of them get run off the road by the car, and the other guy goes, "I'm not hurt. I'm not hurt," and then he just falls backwards without any emotion. And then the girl that played Heather, this is her reaction: "Is he dead? Is he dead? Did he die? What kind of a performance is this?" And there's even a point too, like, and you get to Matthew McConaughey as Vilmer. I didn't mention in part 3, and also what's another weird thing too in that in the opening crawl of this film, they completely ignore what they said in part 3, because in the opening crawl to this film, it says none of the family members were ever apprehended for the crimes, which is not what they said in part 3, because in part 3 they mentioned the fact that the cook was caught and he was sent to the gas chamber and he died in the gas chamber. So that's completely left out of this. So they say over the next several years, 2 minor incidents occurred, which is, I guess, the second and third film. But Renée Zellweger, I mean, she does the best she can, but everybody else, I mean, she's not that great in this movie at all. Everybody's not good in this, except for Matthew McConaughey. And I also like the guy, Joe Stevens, who played W.E. I think him and Matthew McConaughey were the 2 best actors in the movie. I think they were the 2 best ones. But especially Matthew McConaughey as Vilmer. I think he steals the show because it's Matthew McConaughey playing a crazy redneck in the backwoods. And he's great. I mean, he's very entertaining to watch. And I really like Joe Stevens as W.E. He's always like spitting out lines of Shakespeare and things like that. But you can tell by this cover. Look at Leatherface. That's what they made Leatherface. They made Leatherface. He's a whiny princess in this Leatherface. They turned him into a diva, pretty much. He's wearing women's clothes and he's wearing lipstick and he's screaming. Like, there's no kills in here with a chainsaw. And the tagline: "If looks could kill, he wouldn't need a chainsaw." He never kills anybody with a chainsaw. Like, there's even a point where they have the dinner scene again with Renée Zellweger and Matthew McConaughey and the family. And Renée Zellweger's finally had enough of their crap. And she says, "I'm leaving and no one's going to stop me." And Leatherface gets up and starts screaming and says, "You sit down!" And then he does. He sits down. She's telling Leatherface to sit his butt down, and he does it. He does it. You're telling Leatherface to sit down, and he does it. Because he's a diva. He's not scary. He's just... And on top of that, too, like, this movie, there's just a lot of weird stuff, and there's even a point where they kind of do similar stuff also to the original with, remember the girl in the original on the meat hook? They do the same thing in this, kind of like a similar shot when Heather gets put on the meat hook. And another weird thing, too, is there's a point where Heather's on the meat hook, and like later on in the movie, when Darla, who's one of the other family members, is driving home with Jenny in the back trunk, she sees Heather laying in the road. So somehow she got off the meat hook, got out of the house, and was out on the road. And you even get that point where Darla goes up to her and picks up like a big branch and just taps her with it, as if like she's going to attack her, but she taps her with the tree branch. But like I said, Matthew McConaughey easily steals the show. Like that part, like Matthew McConaughey just going off his rocker, he's very entertaining to watch, Matthew McConaughey. He's easily the best actor in the movie. And then I say Joe Stevens is probably the second best, but everybody else, Tyler Sheacone, who was Parry, and Lisa Newmeyer, who was Heather. And the one thing, though, that's really cool about this film is that 3 of the actors from the original film are at the very end of the movie when Renée Zellweger's in the hospital. You have a cop talking to her. That's John Dugan, who was Grandpa in the original film. He makes an appearance as a cop. And you see a hospital gurney going by, and it's Marilyn Burns, Sally. She's on the gurney. And the guy that's pushing her is Paul Partain, who was Franklin in the original film. And you don't see Paul Partain's face too much. It's kind of a glimpse second, which is kind of disappointing. But it was just really cool to see that they had 3 of the actors back from the original film in different roles, pretty much. But instead of like Marilyn Burns, who's Sally, but John Dugan, who's the grandpa, he plays a cop. And Franklin, the guy that played Franklin, is a hospital gurney who pushes the gurney and things like that. But, this movie is just entertainingly bad. But it's such a weird, guilty pleasure. I mean, it's one of those movies where I can just pop in and just laugh my ass off. I just laugh so hard at the ridiculousness of this. And that's why this is an entertaining movie for me to watch. It's a horrible movie. It's atrocious. It's a very bad movie, but it's one of the weirdest guilty pleasures ever. It's really it's just funny to watch because of how entertainingly bad it is. And that's why I'm going to put this as maybe like review slash one of the best comedies ever, because it's hilarious because of how bad it is. But give this a watch. If you want to see a very entertainingly bad movie, I say watch this one. So that is pretty much it for my review for Texas Chainsaw Massacre: The Next Generation. Thanks a lot for watching, and I will see you guys next time. Alright guys, take care.